Hi everyone, we are back, and today we have Michael Lewis from Nanoracks. Hi Michael, how are you doing?
Very good, Rico. Hi, everybody on the Deep Tech Forum. Pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, it's been a long day for us. We have been having a lot of deep discussions with some of our presenters and keynote speakers earlier on. Without further ado, why do you start your session and also introduce us what is Nanoracks doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got some slides I'll pop up here in a sec. My name is Michael Lewis, Chief Innovation Officer of a company called Nanoracks. We are a private company, but we put things on the space station. So with that, with great opportunity comes great responsibility, I guess. And so
Yes.
we like looking at the bigger problems of the world and how can we use space to address some of these. So today I'm going to talk about farming in space, specifically our plans to look at agriculture and growing plants in space, and how we can use that to perform research that can help on Earth, how we can green the desert, so to speak. So
Nice.
So without further ado, let's share a slide or two here.
Looking good. Yep.
All right. There we go. There's me. Feel free to reach out to me, mlewis@nanoracks.com. I also welcome everybody to go to nanoracks.com for lots of fun information. So who are we? We are a company that puts things in space. We have a lot of assets on the space station, but also on free-flying spacecraft. We're known in the industry for deploying satellites into space, but also for doing experiments inside the space station with the astronauts. To date, we've done over 1,000 payloads, which is by far the biggest user of the space station. We've flown experiments from 30 nations on over 40 missions, and then of course we deployed satellites. The reason I bring this up is at Nanoracks we pride ourselves in the fact that all these payloads have had either a scientific, a research, or an educational reason for existing. So every experiment that we've done up there is aiming to benefit the world down here. So that's important for what we're going to talk about today. Right now, 1% of the world is considered barely livable. And there are some forecasts that say that this might rise to 19% by 2070. So each year, we're seeing more areas of the Earth mimic the harsh environment of space, radiation, water scarcity, destructive elements, things like this. This is a real issue. And we've seen with the 3 decades of research that's happened in space that things happen differently. Bacteria, microbes, crops mature faster in space. If you can get something to survive extreme radiation and temperature swings, things like that, you can do some pretty amazing things. So we have this platform, we want to use it. According to the UN, there's a ton of space right now that are desert and semi-desert. Each year, the deserts spread to a size equal to Ireland. So this is we're very aware of this. We're also aware of the fact that the food supply, everything like that is really fragile. The pandemic pointed out a lot of these things to us, both in, we see the effects of climate change and how, farming has moved to, been forced to migrate to other areas because things are no longer productive. Really, it points out fragility of the world's food supply, as well as points out a kind of an unspoken inequality of developing nations. So we're trying to do what we can, backed by world-class organizations. Our founding partner in this is a group called the Abu Dhabi Investment Office. Our mission is to provide the technology and access necessary to overcome the greatest challenges facing planet Earth. And really, why not just jump right in, right? Try everything. Climate change, water scarcity, climate migrations, Really, we want to address food scarcity. We want to turn the deserts green, and it's not without our own motives. We want if you can figure out this stuff for Earth, you can figure out how to go far in space. Space is a great lab. This quote across the bottom by Guerrero. Space is best lab with weak gravity, low temperature, and extraordinarily high radiation. It takes great efforts to create that kind of extreme environment on Earth. It's a great scientific platform for research. So I said our own motives. So space it's weird. It adds additional variables. I've always said, we can only go as far into space as our food supply will bring us. So we need to understand how to grow food there. There's radiation. There's almost no gravity. There's lots of different things happen in space, and we need to understand that, so that we can not only sustain human life in space, but we can go places. We want to have interstellar travel at some point, and this is a big challenge that we need to overcome. So our StarLab Oasis, which is this program that we're talking about, it's going to be the first commercial program that brings together ag tech innovators, space researchers, and other people like that. And Nanoracks is serving to be the access to space to make these things happen. We really, we understand the gravity, so to speak, of these challenges, and really we want to address them if we can. A bit about this, the Abu Dhabi Investment Office. They've invested $41 million total in a number of companies to improve farming on land, sea, space. There's a couple of companies of note in that investment group: Pure Harvest Smart Farms, Fresh to Home, and then Nanoracks, the space group, which is kind of interesting. But we signed an agreement with this group to establish a presence in Abu Dhabi, start hiring world-class researchers, and figure out how we can bring in experts from these fields to perform research in space. So what are the benefits? I think a lot of the benefits can be imagined. It can mitigate climate change. Recyclable and closed agriculture. We can have closed loop systems. Bioregenerative sustainable agricultural systems. We can apply the harsh environment of space to ag tech and the techniques that are there, really adding additional variables. Controlled environment agriculture. Like, if you can control every variable when you're growing a plant, you can further understand the mechanisms that are going on during that plant's growth cycle, and you can influence it. You can make your food more efficiently. You can optimize conditions for it. And then what I was talking about, sustaining space voyages and off-world settlements of tomorrow. We really, we see no downside to this. Let's learn about food and make the deserts green. So, in closing, our objectives are big, and I've got two listed here. I actually have three. One is, let's make the deserts green. No big deal, right? We want to develop world-class research that generates products, technology, and IP that allows for the advancement of food sustainability, mitigation of climate changes, and take advantage of the fact that we have access to space. Our second goal, my second goal, not that first one was too big. We want to look forward. We want to look hundreds of years from now. We want to turn the red planet green. We need, we've got a lot of challenges to be able to have humans be able to live other places. And it just so happens that in order to figure that out, we need to establish food security on Earth. I'll throw a third one on here, a third objective, and that's just to really continue to advance science in space. We have a wonderful platform up there, and we at Nanoracks we've benefited greatly from the International Space Station and the cooperation that's gone on between all these nations to provide an amazing laboratory. So really our goals are pretty big, but so far so good. And really at this time, I guess I welcome questions, Rico, and yeah, and we can talk some more.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, it's been a very interesting sharing. I think we have some time to deep dive into it. I think we have a good 15 minutes to chat about things. Yeah, I realized that you guys do quite a few sector in the space business. And I think you guys are also, I just had a presentation by the earlier speaker about how the cost of all these services has dropped significantly over the years compared to maybe 10 years ago versus now. So like, is it getting, are you guys getting more and more like competitors into the market now? Because the entry point into the business has significantly dropped down in terms of capital, but in terms of expertise, how do you see, you know, the growth and talents pool coming up in the space sector?
That's a great question. So space, aerospace and space in particular is one of the few industries where they say a rising tide raises all ships. We really do benefit from there being more people and more companies involved with it. You're absolutely right. It used to be very, very expensive to put things in space. And a big part of that was that there was a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of challenges, paperwork challenges. And so, about 2008 or a little earlier than that, the space station, which is this amazing platform, was nearing completion. Like they were just about done building everything, and they said, "What are we going to do with this thing?" And that's about the time it became. They said it was going to be a national lab. So in the U.S. segment, they said, "Okay, this is going to be a national laboratory. We're going to allow you to have access to it. If you're a researcher, you just have to kind of provide justification." And we at Nanoracks are one of the first ones that said, "Sign us up." And from that day, we had such great support from NASA to make sure that they were able to make the process easier and thus less expensive.
Of course,
we had so much support that we were so successful at that we created an environment where our competitors could be successful as well. Which,
wow,
if you were in another industry, you
wouldn't want to be your competitor now, since you said that.
but I circle back to what I said. It's good. It's the more.
I mean, I get your point. It's a good competition. Yeah, and it makes it much more interesting for the space to grow. Yeah.
And really, there's been amazing innovations that have come out of space, but at any time, the fact that there's so many experiments going on, that could produce something that's just absolutely life-changing for everybody on Earth. That's exciting.
So roughly, Mike, from your knowledge, how many people are actually human living in those stations now in the orbit?
So
roughly.
I'm sorry. So how many
people? Roughly.
How many people could we keep alive in space? That's a great question. So right now,
there must be some statistics, because you guys are launching a lot of things, and obviously you guys know roughly what is the need and supply up there, and there's so many labs experiment going on. Yeah. Roughly, just a rough figure, just an idea to give to all who are not in this industry. An idea.
So the space station just crossed an interesting landmark. It's been 20 years with at least one person in space all the time, which is crazy. and prior to that, the space shuttle flew a lot of people. But when you think about it, it's still 1,000 people that have been to space, maybe. And I could Google it, but
I think there's more than that, right?
well, let's ask the audience.
Not to the moon, but to the space station in the orbit level. I mean, wherever the space station are. I mean,
I actually don't know. But
that's a very good question, right? We should find out.
Yeah. I think that
I'm not throwing you on the spot, Mike. Don't worry about it. It just came out of my mind.
I'm actually curious. We'll look it up here in a bit. what I do know is that there's been, in the past couple of years, there's been a lot of talk about commercial astronauts, and we saw that on the Crew Dragon that Bob and Doug were SpaceX employees.
Exactly.
So, and I think that that's going to be a trend that continues. Axiom is under contract to build a part of the space station where they can have private astronauts.
Yep. Saw that in media.
Yeah.
It's gonna be it's gonna grow like 100x full of number of people going to the space in the next 3 years to 5 years onwards. Like,
would you go, Rico?
Like, would you want to go on like holiday in the space? It's like going to be a common thing. Yeah, it may be 10 years time from now. Yeah, but of course, only for the rich people for the time being. Yeah.
Right. Well, given the option, would you go? That's the.
I wouldn't mind for a weekend.
Yeah. So, according to Google, I'm quoting Wikipedia. As of November 16, 2020, there's 568 people in space.
Right.
So really not that many when you think about.
Not that many. It's still not that many. Yeah. If that's the case, I believe the number will grow very quickly, depending how this. I mean, looking at the way this industry is growing over the last few years, and with all the media attention is getting, it's growing very rapidly compared to many other sectors. Yeah.
Well, we've seen the industry grow in a number of ways, and in very good ways. One is just access, being able to put experiments in space. We have this entire industry we didn't know existed when we started off, putting small satellites in space. Being able to use the space station, these other spaceships as a deployment point has allowed researchers access that they never had before. We've also seen just a transparency of the science that's happening on the station, which is amazing for researchers in terms of collaboration and things like that. But it's also really amazing for educational groups. You as a student can fly an experiment to the space station and have an astronaut perform it in space. And with this, with the cycle of access, you can do that during a school year, which is incredible. So
is that program started yet, or is it coming soon, sort of thing?
No, that's been happening for years. So we've been flying experiments that you can fit into a school year.
Wow.
Which is incredible. So these are the trends, and these are the changes that we're seeing. And as we talk about these, building greenhouses on the space station and building, turning Mars into an agricultural, just a destination. It seems really far out there, but when you start thinking about what we're actually doing today and what we've been able to achieve in the past 3 decades, but really Nanoracks has only been around 10 years. Like what we've been able to do, it makes these other research ideas not so far out there.
Right. In a way, actually speed up the whole R&D cycle, and also create more opportunities of inventions and new discovery in the space. So I think that itself is very crucial to the science and technology researcher. It means a lot to the academic world. I believe that impact is significant, and I believe the impact will be growing even more faster as more and more competitors, like you said, whoever became your competitors are doing pretty well too. So in that way, there'll be more companies coming in, and that industry will be able to grow even faster and in bigger volume. So it's not just a matter of quality, it's a matter of quantity as well. Coming to the industry, I think it's very, exciting to see this industry grow. Yeah.
You're right, and that you can see that trend in general too. That the companies are seeing more investment. There's bigger companies that are more interested in these smaller, kind of. You originally were just research groups, but you're absolutely right. We're seeing growth in the industry, and I think people are understanding the value of space as a research environment. Now, can we make it a commercial environment? And we're saying yes as well. So
definitely. I mean, what would you say to all the young people, who have not heard much? They only heard probably things happening in news or YouTube or some Googling around, but actually coming from your point of view as a chief innovation officer in the space industry, what would be your takeaway advice for the young people?
Well, I would say the more you look into it, the more you'd be surprised how much there is to still explore. There are so many things we don't know, and there's so many things we learn by doing experiments in a new environment. When you think about how the scientific process is done on Earth, you know your variables. You change one variable, you see what the outcome is. When you do that same experiment in space, you've got one extra variable. And this is important because it changes things, changes how plants grow. There's a gravitropic response in certain plants. They know which way is up and down. You put them in space, they don't know which way is up and down. It changes the way hot air rises on Earth. Everybody knows that. That's why convection works and why an oven works. But if you put that in space, suddenly hot air doesn't rise. If you look at a candle burning, instead of burning up, it makes a nice ball, a perfect round ball. So these basic science things we still need to explore.
Space. Yeah. So you have a new set of law, so to speak, that governs the whole space, which is meant to be discovered and to be experimented with.
So my message to people that we're looking at space as a future or anything like that, and say if you want to explore new things and find out new things about how the planet works, how the universe works, this is still the way to go. There's so much stuff we don't know. We're just barely scratching the surface, and everything that we can discover that can make life better in space can translate to a better life on Earth.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Mike, for sharing this interesting session with us. I look forward to catch up with you guys again in the next DeepTech Forum, and look forward to more exciting announcements by Nanoracks.
Well, I thank you very much, and thank you to everybody on the DeepTech Forum and to the audience members. Really, this is an exciting opportunity, and we really like what you guys are doing. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, we should be back in a few minutes for the next speaker, and look forward to more exciting sharing by some of these space industry experts and scientists. Thank you.